Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. And I hope you guys are doing great. So, in my today's video, I'm going to discuss with you about a company called Sterling and Wilson Renewable Energy Limited. We're going to go through their recent result, understand what the management said in the con call, and understand the good and bad about the company. Right. But before I get into that, I just tell you in briefly what does the company does, right? So, as with the name, you can understand it's into renewable energy. So, it's mostly into solar. So, they have two parts of their business. One is the solar EPC, where they do the engineering, procurement, and construction of the whole plant. Once they get the orders from the customers, so that is the majority part of the business, close to around 90 to 95% of the business. And then the second part of the business is O&M solutions provider, which simply means operating and managing the solar power plant. So these are the two parts of the business. So that's what they do, and that's how they make their money. So, but one need to understand that majority of the business comes from the solar EPC, not from the operating and management side. If you look at their recent result, which they have now in Q4, their revenue decreased by almost 23% to 1,946 crores, and PAT was up by almost 143% to 142 crores. And if you look at the full year revenue, it increased by almost 20%. But PAT was down by almost 444%, and they made a loss of almost 296 crores. So, sorry. So I'm going to get into these losses and explain you, hopefully in a very short manner, what actually happened, right? So when I was going through the details and looking into it, right? So this majority of the losses, right? Is it because of the exceptional items and related to litigation matters in US? So, and these litigation thing arose in the Q2 and Q3 of the section. So I'll just get into the details of it and explain you why. So what happened? They have a subsidiary in US called as Sterling and Wilson Solar Solutions Limited. So over here, they had done a project with one of the another US company called as Conti LLC. And over here, as per their records, right, they had a receivable of close to around 490, close to 490 crores, which they were supposed to receive. And in the back of it, what happened? They did not receive it, and this was part of their receivable. So Sterling and Wilson Solar, the US subsidiary, filed a case against Conti LLC. And what happened when this case was done, and it went to the court of the US and everything? When the result came, or the order came, right? It was against Sterling and Wilson, and which was a big blow for them. At the back of it, the receivable, which was there close to around 490 crores, they had to, completely write it off, which added to the losses. And at the same time, a lot of money was spent into the overall litigation cost, which was close to around 98 crores. So the company wrote off almost close to 580 crores. And at the top of it, right, Sterling Wilson Solar had to pay the US company around 6.44 million US dollar, which is around 57 crores plus interest to them. So that was one of the biggest problem, and it is not that, right. So that is the biggest contribution. They had another litigation going again with the US on the US side with another company called as OEG Inc. Over here, what happened? The company had a litigation of around close to 7 million USD against Sterling and Wilson. But obviously, when the result, when the ruling came out, so good news for them was like the overall amount got reduced from 7 million to $2.25 million, around 20 crores. But here we can clearly see that in the business that they are doing, right, they have a lot of litigation issues, especially in the US side of their business. And when we look at the management commentary further, right, the management clearly says there are still some litigation issues pending in the US, and for it to all get sorted out, it will take another close to around 2 years. But the challenge is, right, what is going to be the impact, right? Here they did well and they could have made a profit for the whole year, but because of this litigation, the right of close to around 580 crores, they made a loss of around close to 300 crores. What is going to happen in future? No one knows, and that is one of the big problems with this company that I see. And if we leaving that aside, if I look in terms of the order book, right, the order book looks quite strong at around 11,813 crores, and the total order inflow for the FY26 alone was close to around 10,000 crores. And they have a special, they are doing certain huge project with Reliance company and Adani company. So on the Reliance, the management said, right, that the conversation is still going on. Technical parameters are getting discussed. So they are not that sure that the revenue will start coming from FY27. So they're not going to commit for that. So most probably we'll have to wait and see in the coming quarters on the con call when the revenue will start flowing in from. In terms of the Adani project, right? They said the project is going quite well, and the way it is going, they expect that more orders will flow at the back of this. So that was one of the important points regarding the two main projects. And in terms of guidance, if we see, in terms of revenue and order book for FY27, management said that they will grow their revenue by around 15%, which is okay or decent, I would say. And the order book also will grow at the same time. In terms of gross margin, they said that their EPC business, right, the main business, will stabilize between around 8 to 10% of gross margin, and operating and maintenance side of the business will stabilize at around 20%. So if you look at these two numbers, right, we can see that EPC is by default has lower margin, and operating and maintenance has a higher margin. But the challenge here for them is, right, that majority, 90 to 95% of the revenue comes from the EPC side, where the margins are less, and O&M contributes to only less than 5% of their revenue. In future, if the company concentrates to, increase their O&M part of the business, right, and if they increase to 20 to 30% of the business, it could contribute very positively in terms of the bottom line. But we have to wait and see whether the company does that or not, because over here in the calls and everything, I didn't, and hear anything from that perspective. They are right now concentrating mainly on their EPC business. And in terms of international business, if you see, they're saying that they're going forward. Africa and Middle East is expected to be their main focus region. That's how it's going to be. And in terms of market share, so they said currently they have a market share of around 25% up and down, right? And in future also they're going to maintain around that only. So over here we can see there are some things that management does not say in the call, but I think when we hear it, when we read it, we understand certain things, right? If the management is saying that, okay, I have a market share of close to 25% up and down, right? And I'm going to maintain that. So that clearly shows, right, that they are not looking it to increase their market share. So that means they're not going out that aggressively to grow their sales and revenue. So they are happy with what they have and they want to maintain it as it is. So here I see a company where they are growing at a decent rate of around 15%, which the management said. They are happy to grow with that further, and they're happy to maintain their 25% margin. So anyone who's investing in such companies can't expect something great or something huge to happen unless and until they change something in the business or their structure and increase their revenue in a much better way. And the other challenges which I see, right, as I spoke about the litigation at the back of it, which they already had to write off close to around 580 crores, and at the back of it they had a loss of close to around 300 crores. The litigation matters are still pending, and which will continue for another 2 years. So we don't know how it is going to impact in the in the coming 2 years of the overall revenue. And the other thing I would say, right, because the way in the business that they are in EPC solar, right? So there are a lot of things depends upon the client requirements. If there are any changes, then obviously the government policies related to solar. If it comes into their favor, it is benefit. If it goes against, then it could be a challenge. So overall, if you look at the business model, right, I personally don't prefer it because there are a lot of moving parts in it. And if something goes wrong, it can derail the whole thing. And personally, I wouldn't invest in it. But if people who can track the whole thing from up and down, I would encourage them. You can study and, look into it. But at the same time, do not expect much great things from there, right? Because the management is very clear. They will grow their revenue only by 15%, not more than that, right? And in Indian stock market, if we do some hard work and we go out and research it, there are so many companies which are growing in the north of 25 to 30%. You might say, Masood, okay, they are there, but the risk is also higher. But my point is at the same time, right? If you want more returns, right, you need to look for companies which are growing at a much higher rate. And obviously, there could be challenges. There could be some companies might execute it, some companies might not execute it. And that is the reason why, if you know that, we have the sell button, in a broker account, right? If something goes wrong, we can just sell it off and save our capital. So that is the most important thing, right? If someone is just looking, nothing much will happen over here because the company is just growing by 15%. And if someone is looking to, for a multi-bagger and everything, I don't think it will come from this company at all. I'm sorry to say that, but this is what my analysis and this is what I feel. This is not a recommendation or a buy or a sell for anyone. I would encourage you to do your own study and, understand the whole business thing. And if you guys like this video, please do hit like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you and God bless you.